So, welcome back to Handelsdagarna. With me I have Sean George.
Thank you.
Sean George is CIO at Strukturinvest and founder of the hedge fund Hamiltonian GCO. Sean has spent 20 years on Wall Street as head of CDS trading. Welcome, Sean.
Yeah, thanks for having me here.
I'm glad to have you here. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Nice.
A little volatile morning with the coronavirus.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So it came up, got up this morning and had a pretty busy morning trading, and nice to take a little break here and talk to you guys.
Yeah. So how do you stay updated?
How do I stay updated? So I have, I've been in this business since 1996. So I have a pretty decent sized contact network around the world where, any time of day I have people that are, either on the ground in Hong Kong, Singapore, London, New York, Los Angeles, where I can, either shoot them a text or send them a Bloomberg in IB or an email. And then I read a lot. I read a tremendous amount, so I try and find, whatever it may be. If when the U.S. and Iran were locking horns and missiles were flying, you go to the people that I know are the best at Academy Securities, so the best at geopolitical risk in the world. They have 13 retired generals, former head of military intelligence. He knows. He has friends on the ground. He has friends in the ComSat room. So with the coronavirus, it's a little bit harder. I don't have that many people that are experts
in
on
coronavirus. Yeah, I can imagine.
But I've been the SARS was my first virus, and the bird flu. So these things come and go. The volatility does spike. This afternoon we have the WHO meeting at 1:30. Should be a significant market event. In general, we'll look back on this time. These things have fat tails, but most of the time, if you bet on fat tails all day long, you're not going to make any money. Yeah.
So leading a hedge fund sounds almost like you're a politician.
Well, I mean, information is key.
Yeah.
I mean, if I can only make decisions based off of the information that I have, and I continuously make decisions on non-perfect information. So I have to be comfortable with the source. I have to be comfortable with the time frame that I've gotten in at, and then I have to make up my own decision. How do I feel about this? Because with the coronavirus, with things, people are more worried about the coronavirus than getting in a car crash 1 mile from their house. Although the probability of them dying from a car crash 1 mile from the house is multiple times higher than dying from the coronavirus at where it is right now, at least. So you just got to have a lot of rational thoughts in your head. Stay calm. This morning, there were some traders in London that were absolutely freaking out on levels. I went long some stuff at the wrong price, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So for people who aren't familiar with you and maybe your field, even could you just tell me a little bit about yourself at work? What do you do? What's a work week like for you?
Yeah, so what I do is I manage a hedge fund. The difference between a hedge fund and a normal mutual fund, which most people own a normal mutual fund, is I have the ability to go both long and short. So if the market goes down, I can make money. If the market goes up, I can make money. That ability does add another dimension. So when you buy a mutual fund, you own, as the buyer of that mutual fund, you own the market risk. Right, so if the market's down 10% and I'm down 9% in a mutual fund, I've outperformed. Yeah. I've done a good job. If the market's down 10% and I'm down 10% in a hedge fund, I've not done a good job. So my job is to work harder, to minimize losses on down days, and to still participate on the upside. So it's a more multi-dimensional. It's a more difficult task. Not everybody's suited for the task. You have to enjoy the markets, you have to live the markets, you have to be willing. I was talking to somebody the other day, 2019, I slept under my desk at least 4 or 5 times.
Okay,
with
August maybe? Or?
Yeah, it was May and August. And particularly in August, it was the yuan fixing. That was the key point. So I had to be in at 3 o'clock to trade that. And then you had some downtime after that, or an initial spike. I took it like a couch pillow. I just put it under my head and got couple hours of shut-eye with Bloomberg on, so I don't know if I really slept or didn't sleep. And then, you got back in the war when I got a couple hours of shut-eye. Most people don't want to do that. For me, this is my hobby. So I love my job. So it's not necessarily work. Now it's go time, and now it's fun, and that's when you make the difference, right? Most funds were down a considerable amount of money in May and August of last year, and we were up both those months. So and that's the difference. You fight like hell in times of stress, and then the good thing about being your own boss when you're at a hedge fund versus being at a bank, in times when it's calm, well, I'll go home at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
So no FaceTime.
I'd like that.
Yeah.
That's nice. So what do you think are important skills for you in your job? You mentioned like conscientiousness. You need to work a lot, and you need to be really interested in what you're doing, because you're not going to be able, even if your work ethic is really great, you're obviously not going to be. You're not going to fulfill your potential if you're not loving what you're doing.
Yeah.
But do you think, other than that, are there any particular skills or mindsets that are important in what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, and this is one of the biggest differences between Stockholm and New York and London. In Stockholm, you rarely hear a fund manager talk about his mistakes or her mistakes. People don't talk about their mistakes because they want to pretend like they don't make mistakes. Mistakes are probably my best part of my day, because that gives me a chance to become better than I was yesterday. So you're going to make mistakes, and they're going to hurt, and you're going to need to learn from those mistakes. So have some humble pie. I mean, we joke about it on Wall Street, but you check your ego at the door. Like if you're walking around like I run this fund, I'm King Kong, well, you're going to get your ass handed to you. That's the bottom line. Like you have to have some humility in what you do. You have to be willing. There's nothing that beats hard work. My first customer said to me the other day, he goes, "It must be funny watching your competition, realizing they can't beat a man that will outwork them every single day, no matter what." And that really comes down to like hard work, dedication, humble pie, do your work. There's no shortcuts in this business. If you want to get into this business because you want to be rich, you're fucked. I mean, this is not a business to get into because you want to be rich, because you'll never make it. Like, the money's not worth it. Like, who wants to work 17 hours a day? There's not a lot of people that want to do that. But if you love it, then you can succeed. So I would say if you're thinking about this, I want to get in and make a quick buck and get out, you're not going to survive.
Yeah. So you mentioned Wall Street, and I mean, I think that's naturally we have to go there. And as we spoke a little bit before this, like before the cameras went on, before this interview, and because there are so many things that I could speak to you about macro perspectives, about the housing market and about the coronavirus. But I think for this interview, what we really should focus on is you and your journey. I think that's the most interesting thing for SSC students to hear about. So I wonder if you could tell me a little bit about the beginning of Wall Street and how you got there, because if I understood it correctly from previous interviews, that was not always, it was not a straight line for you. You did not aim right at Wall Street. You finished your degree at the University of Gothenburg, right? And then you went to the US?
Yeah.
To ski?
Yeah, no, so I went to ski before I started college, so after high school.
Yeah.
And I went into Aspen, Colorado. And I always was interested in the markets, and my dad was in the business way back when. And I met some guys that were in the business, and we hit it off. I stayed in touch, and then when I was done with college, I flew over to the States for some interviews. And I mean, the first interview was absolutely, one was like, "You'll never work on Wall Street." I have people from Harvard. Your internship, you don't have any internships. I've never heard of your college. Like, I don't even know why I'm sitting here. I'm like, well, Jesus. I mean, and then I interviewed at Payne Webber and Cantor Fitzgerald. The first interview was Banker's Trust, which was Deutsche Bank, which was acquired by Deutsche Bank. I was a bond broker, not really taking any risks. So I was a broker between banks So Citibank wants to trade a bond, that they want to sell a bond they own. Maybe Bank of America is a buyer of that bond, or has a buyer of that bond that Citibank doesn't know. And then I was the guy in the middle, getting guys to meet on a price, and then we would take a commission on that. And it was really different. I made 170,000 krona my first year living in New York. You talk about dirt poor, right? And we had 2 weeks vacation a year, which you weren't really supposed to take. You were supposed to go out with clients every night, it was kind of, it was very difficult. Although at the same time, like, I'm on fucking Wall Street. I'm on the 104th floor of the World Trade Center, which is a different story. I'm lucky to be alive, but I made it to where I wanted to get. But then when you got there, it's a lot of hard work and luck. Like, I got lucky. Like, I got into spots that through social networking, not like the social networking you have today, but just meeting people, talking to people, and I was lucky enough to land a job on the buy side in Indiana at an insurance company. Ran 26 billion dollars in insurance money, and then we had a big total rate of returns, more like a mutual fund business. And I got to manage money. It was about 4.5 years into the business. And I remember my very first day, Citibank bought Associated Banks. I think we had 100 million Associated Bank bonds in the portfolio. And Karen Wright, who's actually the chairman of the board of Hamiltonian, my fund now, she was my boss. And she's like, sell them all. And I'm like, oh boy. And I literally my first day, I get an order to sell 100 million bonds, all across the maturity curve, and I screwed it up. And she was really cool. She's like, you did this wrong, you did that wrong, you did this wrong. And it was just a great learning experience for me. And then we tried to buy the asset manager from the insurance company. There's about 17 of us that tried to buy it. It didn't go through, and then everybody left, and the insurance company went bankrupt. And my wife at the time was like, you know what? I don't want to be moving around to all these different cities. You get a job in New York, and if you want to change jobs, we don't move. So I went to UBS, where I was for 4 years. And early on I started trading CDS against my will. Traded, right when the credit derivative indexes started trading, I was a market maker. The market makers nowadays laugh at me because they've never met anybody that traded the initial series of indices. Really dating myself. And then, Bank of America wanted somebody to come over and help them run the industrial book. Which I did, and then I ended up, global head of CDS trading. May 2007, I was made the global co-head of CDS trading at Bank of America, which is so a product that was, front row seats to the end
financial
of the world,
crisis,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
I was able to turn the bank's risk around, and we made money in 2008. Didn't get paid for it. Went to Deutsche Bank, got paid, but it was a terrible place to work.
If I got you right, you said that your first interview, right?
Yeah, so the same bank that said that I would never get a job on Wall Street.
You were head of CDS trading.
They hired me to run CDS trading.
Okay.
And electronic trading, the irony is hilarious, right? I was free in 1996, and I was not free in 2009. It was a completely different price. It just shows you, you never give up. And then I went to Jefferies, which I was probably the best bank I've worked at. Initially, Bank of America was the coolest place I worked at. Then it changed. Then Jefferies work environment at Jefferies is fantastic. And then I end up here running the fund. But I'd like to take a step back. We kind of quickly walk through what I did. The things that, to convey, what's important to you guys, how do you get to head of something job at a bank? And there's people that will stab other people in the back, do nefarious things along the way. Treat people poorly, push down to raise themselves up. I never did that. Was I aggressive? And if you were on the wrong side of me, was that a difficult place to be on? Yeah. You don't become the head of something if you leave survivors behind. If somebody stabbed me in the back, they paid for it. And that is the culture you're in on Wall Street. Like you are not going to end up head of something and everybody loves you. There's going to be people that want to take you down and tear you down. So you got to have a lot of integrity. You got to have people around you that respect you. You got to be willing to hire people that are smarter than you. I always hired people that are smart. It made my job easier. And I joke, Jesper, who's my partner now, way smarter than me. At some point in time, I expect him to push me off the cliff. Because that's how my team is better. If I hired people, if I'm the smartest guy in the room, I'm in the wrong room. So hiring people that were smarter than me along the way and protecting my people. Protecting the people, like, I started off being a pod manager. And the people that worked for me loved working for me. My bosses always thought I was difficult. And then when I ran CDS trading and more people worked for me, everybody loved working for me. But my bosses thought now I'm increasing more difficult. But at the same time, they understood what I was doing. That's why I was pulled up to manage people, because I treated people properly. It was great working for me. It was great. It was worse having me working for you.
Yeah.
And those are the attributes that I had that got me to where I was. Now, if I lost money along the way, I wouldn't have been made head of anything. So the first job is to make money. But doing it with integrity, with honesty, and with passion is what got me to where I was, and then how I treated other people in that process. I would, if you worked for me, I would always send out an email, look what this person did, how great of a job they would do. And I do it to this day. I always lift up the people that work for me or the people that support me and point out the good jobs they do. I don't try and manage by fear. But if you try and stab me in the back, you will find there is another side to that as well, and you have to take those people out. And you do that a couple times, and people stop stabbing you in the back.
Yeah, I think you have to be able to say no, and if you show people that you can say no, then
exactly.
Then you're not going to be able to do what is right.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think you mentioned integrity, and not the exact word, but thick skin is.
Oh, you get your ass kicked all day long.
And those are not like binary switches. That's not a 0-1. It's something that you build up over time. Yeah. Do you have a particular? Because to build that up in yourself, I imagine you had to go through some kind of fear, or to
handle the
to handle the bruises, to kind of build up your integrity.
Well, integrity, it's what decisions you make when bullets are flying.
Yeah. And that's something you practice, I imagine, over time.
Yeah, but usually the bullets are coming at you before you had any practice. Okay. But when the bullets are flying, are you the guy carrying, holding your gun like this, or are you leading your troops in, to take the foxhole, right? I think, for me, it's probably genetic, flight or fight, right? And, I will fight. And I've been in martial arts my entire life and whatnot, so I'm not afraid of a fight, metaphorically or in the ring or in the cage. But you have to stand there and be willing to push back. And as a market maker, if somebody comes and hits me on 100 million bonds, you can't run and just start freaking out and selling them and lose a bunch of money. Yeah. You have to have courage under fire, and you have to stand your ground. And some of the things that people talk about to this day. There was a Heinz, a very complex trade, but it was I think made $13 million in a day on a Heinz bond, right? And everybody knew I ended up long multiple 100 million 30-year Heinz bonds. And the first market I made, I took it in 10 basis points, and I made the market 100 by 1. So $100 million by 1. And somebody was like, is that big good? I was like, yeah, hit me. He's like, no, I don't hit you. He's like, yeah, I'll hit you on 20. So he hit me on 20 million. And then I took, my next market was 100 by 1, 5 basis points tighter. So I took the market up in his face. He's like, what did you just do? I hit you. I was like, I know. And then nobody wanted to sell. And everybody, all the other banks were trying to knock down the price because they knew I had so much. And they're like, oh, crap. He just doesn't care. And then I just took it up to a price where I was able to exit the bonds. And that, if you're afraid to, like, I knew everybody. I knew when I went into this trade, everybody was going to come after me. And I was like, sheep to the slaughter, bring it. And I made a tremendous amount of money in a very short period of time. One of my best trades ever in that short period of time. And those are the things that make people not want to fight you. Because I was talking to a friend of mine. He actually brought it up because he was one of the customers that bought those bonds for me was in the car with him when I called him, and he's like, "I'm still mad at this guy
Not that popular,
about that trade." It was 10 years ago. so I mean, there's things that you do along the way to build up your credibility and the fact that you're not going to back down, and then your integrity is how you treat people. Like, you know, if somebody's in a trade and they're about to lose their job, I'm not going to lose my job for you, but if I can help you out, I'm going to help you out. I did it just yesterday. I bought a bond from somebody the day before yesterday. It was up 1% yesterday, and the guy had shorted it to me. I was like, "You're fine. You can have them back." I didn't know he shorted them to me. And my exact words were, "This is a marathon, buddy. Don't worry about it. Like I need you in this game to be able to do so we can keep on trading." And those are the things that people remember. Like, how did I treat you when you were losing? Yeah. How did I behave when I was winning? You know, will I spike the ball on them? Yeah, I will spike the ball when I'm winning. But you can do it with, you know, a glint in your eye.
Yeah, I see what you mean. So I'm thinking, so you were head of, as you mentioned, CDS trading at Bank of America during the financial crisis. Could you tell me a little bit about just the environment right before you knew it was kind of coming down? What was the mood like in the office? Like,
well, I'll tell you, when Bank of America bought Countrywide, I was short Countrywide because it was a disaster company. And I turned to my junior trader, Nick Prala at the time, and I said, "Well, we are not getting paid for a long time," because I knew that was a bag of hammers. So the mood was somber. Because you have to understand that you have the people at other banks that were getting fired. They were my friends, yeah. and people that were over levered, you know, going bankrupt because, you know, a lot of us, you know, most of my compensation was in Bank of America stock. That stock went from where I was awarded at 55, it went to 3. It's at 31 now. I'm still not back to making, you know, getting my money back, right? So there was individual tragedies across the trading floor. There were corporate tragedies. You had the housing crisis. You had the unemployment rate. You had something that looked like it actually could be Armageddon. That, you know, we're going to be in the mountains eating squirrels type of scenario. Yeah. And that was the mood. But at the same time, you know, I'd be at work every day at 5 a.m.-ish. And then, you know, that's me driving. It's an hour drive from Connecticut into 50 minutes from my house to the office, which at that time in the morning I do in 40 minutes. That was the best part of my day, driving to work at as high a speed as possible. To get some adrenaline out of the system. And then you get in, and then you're getting, you know, you have Bloomberg radio on in the car, and it's, I mean, overnight it's just a disaster, and you're coming in and you're looking at the risk. I mean, and these books were absolutely enormous. I spoke to my boss, Frank Burrito, actually not too long ago, just to double check, and we had $1.5 trillion of CDS on. $1.5 trillion. Now it wasn't directional. It was like if you took all the counterparties back and forth, like the balance sheet
aggregated,
was $1.5 trillion. And then I'm sitting there like, what happens if Lehman goes down? What happens if Lehman and Morgan Stanley go down on the same day? What happens if Goldman and Merrill Lynch go down on the same day? And then you're running all these scenario analysis because my risk changes monumentally on each of those events, and trying to calculate the probabilities and setting up your books. Okay, this goes down. Okay, then I have, then my book is short. Then these two happen at once. My book is long, and just working through the process of how this is going to affect you. it doesn't get harder than that.
Yeah.
That was professionally, intellectually, emotionally, physically. That was the hardest environment that I hope to ever be in. Was that. It was pretty funny because I actually went to renew my life insurance policy, and there was all these bets on there right during that period before Lehman went down, and there was all these bets on what my blood pressure would be on the trading floor. And it was pretty frantic trading on what my blood pressure, and all the bets were on how high it was. My blood pressure was low, so I actually physiologically could deal with the stress decently well. Now, was I happy about the environment that I was in? No, it was really hard. I was fat. It was a tough period of time. But at the same point in time, being the team captain on the winning team in the biggest game that I'll ever play in my professional career.
Quite exciting, I can imagine.
It's pretty cool in hindsight.
Yeah.
I don't walk around thinking about that, but if you're going to ask the question, like we walked into the Valley of Death, and we feared no man.
I want to keep you just there for a second. Is it emotional stress, physical, professional? Do you have any tools or habits of how you cool down or how you stay calm, or is it just something that you think you have?
Martial arts has been a life-saving thing for me.
I know you run a gym, right?
I own a gym in Connecticut, a mixed martial arts gym in Connecticut when I lived there. And I fought amateur fights. And the training, the discipline, really the discipline for martial arts is part of my career. The discipline to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning because we're training the yawn fixing, and trading all the way till 11 o'clock when the U.S. closes. Most people don't have that discipline in them, but in martial arts, discipline is everything.
Yeah.
And forcing your body and your mind to go where your will doesn't want to go is martial arts.
Yeah.
And pain and suffering, distress, fear. If I have to be there, then I'm going to be there. And martial arts is people use yoga. There's other outlet. People drink, but for me, it's been martial arts.
Yeah.
That has been I'm not training as much as I'd like to now, but I just started a hedge fund a year and a half ago, and I don't have 10 people on my team. Although we did beat the Swedish hedge funds last year, we did beat all the long-only funds in the credit segment last year, and there's just 2 of us. But that was from hard work. But throughout my life, since I was 8 years old, I've been focused more or less on martial arts and different forms of martial arts. If it's boxing, jiu-jitsu, Thai boxing, that is my saving grace.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was thinking maybe, so I've asked all the people that come here about a failure of theirs that they really value. So if you have some kind of favorite failure that is, if there's anything that you can do today that you think that you're able to do because of a failure or something that you went through.
Having everybody. I had the same experience when I tried to come back to Sweden that I had on my first interview on Wall Street. The woman told me I'll never get a job on Wall Street. 3 days later, I had a 3-year contract.
Yeah.
And when I came back to Sweden and I had a headhunter, and I was like, here's my resume, which is a very strong resume by all accounts, I got 0 interviews. And he went to all the big banks, 0 interviews. I was like, all right. Now I have to punch everybody in the face when I get to Sweden, and I'm going to do this on my own. So now
why do you think you got that? That sounds very.
I think it's very Swedish.
Okay.
I hire people that are smarter than me, have more experience than me all day long. I don't think the Swedish institutions, I'm not the only person that's happened to.
Okay.
It is quite a common thing. The amount of people at London and New York banks that are Swedish that sent me messages, thank you for saying that in an interview, because it's almost a disgrace.
Okay.
That
Wow.
people 20, 30 years on Wall Street can't get a job in Sweden at the Swedish banks.
Yeah.
It's a disgrace. And I don't care if you're watching, it is a disgrace. But stuff like that doesn't bother me, because then I laughed. I'm like, all right, well, let's fight about it. Let's go toe to toe. And so now I'm at this tiny fund with very little infrastructure, and I beat you guys last year, and I'm beating you guys this year. I enjoy that. That's what they don't understand. You're not going to keep me out and have me give up. I've seen this movie before. I've lived this movie before, and I know how this movie's going to end. So for me, it's game time. Let's go. And we're in the middle of the fight. I'm enjoying the fight. And I think other people are not enjoying the fight as much. So for me, adversity, people saying that you can't do this, that is just fire to the flame.
Yeah.
And or gas to the flame. So, you know, just having people tell me no means that, you know, this is going to be more the better, or be better when we reach the promised land. But one thing that I will say that I've done a terrible job at is enjoying the ride. I've been in the fight so hard that very rarely do I take a step back. It's like, wow, this is kind of cool. Like you're getting to do all these cool things, and that's probably, you know, I think we're wrapping up, but that's part of, you know, the one piece of advice that I missed along the way is I've been so goal focused and so forward looking that I've not really stopped enough to smell the flowers a little bit. It's not like I don't do stuff and that I enjoy, but I very rarely take a step back and reflect that, wow, you have a fun job, man. Like, enjoy, you know, the bad days as much as you enjoy the good days, because I'm more focused on winning all day long that I very rarely take a step back and just ponder on the fact that how lucky I am to do something I love every single day. I've had an entire career, 24 years of a job that I love. It's my hobby, it's my pastime, it's my profession, it's part of my identity. Not everybody gets to say that.
How do you think that happened? Because not everybody has a situation. Why do you think that you got?
Put it this way. You can't put me at Volvo or like a corporate, and like, I'm an intense human being that I love the fight. Like, I love the battle. I was lucky enough to find my way to something that I was meant to do. Even before I knew, I had no clue. Like, you don't know what you're meant to do before you do it. Nobody knows that. And also, like, I didn't start doing exactly what I want. My first job I didn't really love, but it was fun, and I got to meet a lot of people that helped me along the way. But for 24 years, I've been doing what I love, and learning every single day. Learning every single day. I mean, imagine, I get to be better today than I was tomorrow, every single day of my career, and that not everybody is in a situation where that is my job. My job is to synthesize information, react to it, or not react to it, and look at what I've done and be better. It's pretty cool. And then I get to, you know, handle some of the most difficult situations that we need to handle on a daily basis. Iran, just this year, Iran, impeachment, coronavirus, Fed, ECB. January's not even over yet.
Yeah.
and we've been through all these things, and I love this. Like, I love learning about, maybe I don't love learning about viruses, is probably the wrong thing to say, but I love that I'm forced to learn something about something new rapidly, and then I have to make sure that my fund is in the right place for whatever outcome I believe that new issue will have. And not many people get to do that.
So, love the fight, work hard, and smell the flowers along the way.
And have some humility
too.
Because, I mean, you're going to make mistakes. And there's no reason going around pretending like you're not making mistakes. When you make a mistake, try and be better about it. And be honest about it. Like, we're human beings. We make mistakes. So don't walk around, because people don't like, particularly on trading floors, if you act like you don't do anything wrong, kind of ticks people off, because everybody around you is making mistakes. So just fess up to yours, because everybody can see them. So I'd add that.
I like that. I think that's a great way to round up.
Yeah.
Jean-Georges,
thank you very much.
Thank you so much for
it's a
coming. Pleasure having you. So that was Jean-Georges. After lunch we have Patrik Wallén from Volati at 1 o'clock. Stay tuned.